Welcome back to the Pro Football Pod. We are bringing you the Week 9 waiver wire pickup. We know that you have no idea who to get this week in waiver wire, and that's why you've showed up here so we can tell you. So let's just start it off real quick and real easy. Will Levis is available on your waiver wire in 97% of leagues, so go get him. Thanks for showing up, and we'll talk to you again next week. 97.
For what it's worth, at least via the Sleeper app, Sam Howell is also available. It's still in like 47% of leagues. And I really don't know how he's not rostered on more. That's why I didn't even put him on my list for waiver. But
Nope.
then I came across that and I was like, okay, well, honorable mention for Sam Howell here. We've mentioned him in the recap episode. Just the guy's going off. Tip of the hat to him. But Will Levis, he's going to be the number one waiver wire pickup, especially with Kirk going down now and Tannehill getting benched. Like, people are losing quarterbacks out here.
And what we're saying is if you don't have the number one, then get Sam Howell. Like, what are you guys doing? Mm-hmm. He's not available in any of my leagues because all of my leagues hopefully listen to the show. Hey. And if they don't, then they don't have all the good players. That's just how it is. Now, another really easy one, Will Levis, we talked about in the last episode. There's not a lot to mention. Gardner Minshew has had two very, very rough matchups. And in two very, very rough matchups, he put up 28 points and he put up 15. So 213 with 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I'll take that. I think that this guy is someone that should be on more teams. I think that Anthony Richardson going down, everyone thought that team was over with. They weren't going to try hard anymore. That doesn't seem to be the truth.
No, not at all.
Yeah, he's been electric.
Well, he's going to give you the turnovers because he's got a little Fitzpatrick to him.
Which
he's still electric.
That's what you're getting from these quarterbacks that aren't the top 5 guys. They're going to give the ball up sometimes, but the fact that they're running the ball, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns versus Cleveland, and neither one of them was a designed run. So this week, Gardner Minshew has Carolina. CJ Stroud had a little bit of an issue against Carolina this past weekend. He didn't put up huge points, but Gardner Minshew is more developed of a quarterback, and honestly, with Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss taking that the running attack against Carolina, I think that Gardner's going to have some opportunities, especially these guys he's throwing the ball to.
Yeah, he's got some elite weapons to work with, and a solid running back to take some pressure off of him. I think that's why he stopped running the ball so much last week. Yeah, I mean, both his running backs have been crushing it. So,
yeah, really with Gardner, it's just a matter of he's got to tone down the gunslinger a little bit. But even me, it'd be so hard to tell him that because I love that mentality. When I played quarterback briefly, that was mine. Just grip it and rip it, baby. Let's go.
That's the Jameis.
Out all the time, but yeah, that's the Jameis. Just see what's down there. Oh, let's go.
Jameis Winston's only play is grip it and rip it. That's about all that he's got, and he does it well. He does it better than anybody else. 35 touchdowns, 35 interceptions. Well, that's a 1-to-1 ratio.
I feel like that's a great transition into the wide receiver for a waiver wire here is Rashid Shaheed. 3 catches, 153 yards, and how many touchdowns? 1 at least. I don't have it pulled up right here in front of me, but
he's got a couple of touchdowns on the year.
That's almost Randy
this past week.
Stat lines right there. Just 50 yards a catch. What are we doing?
No, yeah, those stats was alarming to me, and that's why he's here. This dude's an elite athlete. Throw the ball over the top. He's gonna be open. He's got the speed for it. What are we doing?
I've been seeing a lot of stuff online about people saying that Chris Olave is disappearing, that he's not really showing up this year, and it's not entirely his fault. Rashid Shaheed kind of came out of nowhere and he's taking good quality looks, and he's doing exactly what Olave did the best last year, which was take the top off of defenses.
Mm-hmm. As well as Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas, known for taking the top off?
Well,
No, I'm just
also,
saying he's there taking looks away.
From
But
Olave.
and then you got Taysom Hill, and you got a brand new quarterback in the new system first year, so it's like a lot to like mesh together.
well, see,
And
I think
so,
that's what it is. Is Olave is, in his second year is garnering more attention,
Mhm.
so that's leaving the third wide receiver available to just streak down the sideline because you've
well,
got
he's
to
also
guard
the fastest one.
exactly. So yeah, I really like Rashid Shaheed as a waiver wire option. He's available in most leagues. And Jahan Dotson probably as well because he's gotten dropped by a lot of people throughout this season.
We talked
Yeah,
about how
we've
we
been
were
pooping on
dropping
him.
Hmm.
after week 5 or week 6. We had such high expectations for him. He wasn't getting the targets in this offense. Now, what changed is Curtis Samuel's hurt. So Curtis Samuel being
That
out means that now there's just two of them. Terry and him are going to be getting the AJ
That's
Brown,
what it
Devonta
should be.
Smith, treatment.
treatment, yeah.
Yeah.
That's some of my best, my favorite receiving core is Washington Commanders.
Oh,
They
they're
have
so
I
such
good.
love their
athletes over
receiving
there.
core.
So good. And that's where Sam Howell, if he could take a couple steps, it's not his fault. It's his offensive line. Let's be real. The guy's running around like he has to run for his life on every play.
But I
That's
like that he's not dying back there. He's not getting just
he's getting
spanked every
sacked a
night.
lot. But yeah, he's young enough to take. He's not getting slaughtered. He's not literally
Yeah.
just.
No, he's a big enough quarterback and he's got legs where he does run it and he gets out the pocket. I like to
Yep.
see that from him.
I saw
Hmm.
it more at the end of this last game against Philly, where he was running out and just throwing it away. But he was realizing that he's never going to get 2.5 seconds in the pocket. He gets 1.5, and then he has to start moving. So
Yeah.
it playing
Imagine
off
if they
of what
just
you
drafted a
get.
couple linemen for him to help out.
Seriously, that
Because
would
they got
be
a running back too. Back there with two of them. They got a receiving back with Antonio Gibson and then Brian Robinson, freaking heavy horseback. The dude runs the ball so hard.
talking about someone running the ball hard. Leonard Fournette just got added to the Bills. Playoff Lenny looking primed to not touch the ball until December.
Popular waiver wire pick, and he's going to take over as far as what Latavius Murray and Damian Harris were doing down in the
Thank
red
you.
zone.
I think that's the biggest thing. What James Cook isn't going to get hurt by this. I don't think if you're a James Cook fan that you're happy with this because it means that now they really don't trust him in the red zone to score. They trust Leonard Fournette to do it for him because Latavius Murray wasn't working out either. But it doesn't take away his in between the 20s work. His receiving work isn't going to get affected too much. Josh Allen is going to love this guy. Tom Brady loved Leonard Fournette. Josh Allen's going to love him for the same reasons. He's reliable, he blocks well,
Was he
and
not
he
playing on any team?
no, he's been available this whole time. Him and Kareem were the two free agents that should have been signed, and
Well,
now everyone's
Kareem
been
stuck
signed.
with his squad, and
Eventually,
Leonard finally
after
found a home.
after Chubb's knee got torn in half, then
I
Kareem
don't
came
think that's
back.
a difference maker
Hmm.
for the Bills. I don't think that's what they needed to excel.
No,
Like,
they need some defensive pieces if we're being real.
yeah,
This isn't a defensive speaking podcast, but they need some defensive pieces. Their cornerbacks are getting a little bit banged up. They lost Tre'Davious White. They've lost their linebacker, Milano. Huge
yeah,
loss
that
for
was
them.
a big loss.
Yeah.
Best linebacker in the league.
Another running back to talk about, Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson finally got some solid carries for the Dolphins this past week. You are definitely not getting Achane back this week. Raheem Mostert is later and later in the season. They're going to want to give him less and less of the load because they're trying to have him ready for the playoffs. So I think that that's what we've been seeing over the first 4 or 5 weeks. Raheem Mostert was getting not a ton of carries, but he was just getting a ton of work. He was touching the ball a lot, and we're seeing that a lot less now. I think that Jeff Wilson is going to be able to step into the role that he had last year, which was the punch in that 1-2 punch.
Agreed. And I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, I know Raheem's faster, but Jeff, maybe it's just fresher legs, but he looked more explosive and more effective with the ball in his hands this last game. Raheem was able to get the touchdown which helped my little touchdown parlay. Same for
Same.
Austin, but
Same.
yeah, there you go. So, but I mean,
Towards
yeah,
it.
I agree. Jeff Wilson in that scheme, in that offense, with how much Shanahan has trusted him, and just what he showed last year as well, he's got to be rosterable because as soon as it, or God forbid, anything happens to Raheem, Jeff Wilson's immediately stepping into that spot, and he's going to get you almost running back one production.
I think Achane coming back will hurt Jeff Wilson. He'll need an injury to be able to step on, but with the way that they're utilizing our running game, I think that he's going to see an opportunity. I don't think that all of the running backs for the Dolphins are going to be able to stay healthy if they're going to keep using them in the way that they are. One of the best rushing teams, not because of one running back, but because of all of them. So I think that that continues. Jeff Wilson will see value. It'll be not a we're locking him into our lineup for the rest of the season, but against this matchup, whenever it's run heavy, he's a receiving back too. He doesn't do it as much as Raheem does, but whenever he does, he's very effective.
Agreed.
Austin, you got any tight ends for us?
That boy Logan Thomas. He's been
Logan
crushing it.
Tommy.
Yeah, he's been getting nice receptions, targeted nicely, and with like we said with the injury to Curtis Samuel, he's the third man up, and he's just been consistent. Someone you can trust throughout the years.
Yeah, I mean, he had 11
And
targets against
with
Chicago.
with a young quarterback like that, he trusts his tight end. We preach on that. So
He's been targeted 8 times in at least 3 games. 1 week 8, 1 week 1, 1 week 5, and then one this past week against Philly. That's solid for the tight end position. Whenever you average it out, he's averaging like 5 or 6 targets a game, and that was all with Curtis Samuel playing.
yeah, I mean if available in your leagues, you got like Ferguson and Schultz, like the men's been crushing it as well.
The reason, Trey McBride's someone that's huge for picking up this week. He's obviously a waiver wire pickup if he's still available from last week when we were saying you guys should add him. This is not a week to play him though. I think that he's going to have a tough matchup. So if you do pick him up, just realize that we might be sitting on someone like Trey McBride. But Ferguson has a great matchup against Philly. Philly's been just giving up a bunch in the past. Look at what Washington did to them this past weekend. So Jake Ferguson's going to be able to just dial it up the exact same way that Logan Thomas did this past weekend.
It's just the Cowboy way to just feed the tight end. It's just how they like to run the system there.
Yeah,
Tight
I
ends
mean,
have always ruled the field over there.
I think that the scary thing about Ferguson week in and week out is that CD's always going to eat, and they've been trying to get Pollard going
That's good
so
for
much
him,
this
though.
season. I think it'll open up opportunities. It's just you need Dak to. I think that the closer that the game is, the more that Ferguson will have his opportunities, especially in the fourth quarter. Whenever they start blowing teams out is whenever he can't do as much later. This past weekend he did great. Against the Rams, he got a touchdown though. Without the touchdown, he only had 4 for 47. So that's my only thing against him is that he's consistent on being a mid tier guy. If he gets a touchdown, then he's capable of putting up top 15 numbers.
Pollard's someone I'm trying to trade for because of his down weeks he's been having.
I mean, I think that's a good call. It's funny that he's having such a bad season because I think that he was one of the few tier 2 running backs that are like in between tier 2 and tier 1 that everyone thought was a lock. How good he looked last year, nobody expected him to have these 7 and 6 point games. They expected the 20 point a week minimum that he put up week 1. And he put up he put up less than 8 in 3 games so far this season. Week 4, 5, and 6 against New England, San Fran, and now the Rams.
They're
And
not throwing
Philly,
him the ball as much, which is crushing him.
Philly's the toughest team against the run, and you guys still have to play them twice. But besides playing Philly, he's got a bunch of medium tier to easy matchups through the rest of the season. So I like Pollard for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the point where you start looking at like the playoff schedules more than anything. And
Yeah.
that's where the trade value for me comes in because a lot of people don't look at that. So they'll be questioning, oh, why is he trying to trade for Gus Edwards?
Yeah.
Well, Gus has a great playoff schedule coming up. So if he can stay healthy, you're looking solid.
Yeah, the same thing happened. I had somebody asking me about trades this past weekend, and they were trying to trade for Nico Collins. And Nico Collins plays two really, really tough matchups for the playoffs. Let me pull it up real quick. They play week 14. They play the Jets. Week 15 they play Tennessee, but week 16 they play Cleveland. So in your fantasy championship, they're going to be playing against Cleveland, one of the worst teams against wide receivers, and it's Nico Collins. It's not like it's Stephon Diggs. I don't care who the matchup is. Give me this guy. He's going to go off. He's not going to go off against a tough matchup. Denzel Ward's going to destroy him all game. Now, not to say he's going to do nothing, but I don't want to have to start that guy, and trading for him means that I'm starting him. That's why I'm trading for you, is because you need to start for me whenever it matters the most, which is hopefully the playoffs and the championship.
This is probably one of the toughest years to try to trade in because of all the injuries.
Yeah,
Like, everyone's just holding on to who they have. Like,
and riding it
you
out.
don't know who's going down next.
Give it another week. And after the trade deadline for the NFL happens and everything's settled and we know what it looks like, people will have their priorities set on, I need to get a running back. Let me off these two young receivers that I have that aren't even starting on my team for something else. And people will be ready to trade. You just have to give them time. With that, we'll bid you guys adieu. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Go to Tulsi Rose Tea at tulsirosetea.com for all your tea needs. And we'll see you in another episode later this week. Peace.
Love you.